All right, everyone, let's go. Parshat Shmini. Today we're gonna use an example of a non-kosher. Excuse me. That's what happens when you eat chocolate before class. A not kosher being that we can't consume, but we can learn a lot from. So we'll start off with a conspiracy question. You ever see those conspiracy questions? Really, they have the cure for AIDS and for cancer, for everything. They just don't want to release it because they want to make there's more money in the sickness than the cure. You never heard that conspiracy theory?
Of course.
Barbara, come on, what are you watching? National Geographic? Come on, watch some real news. So there's the big theoretical question. Let's say a person discovers something that could benefit mankind, but if I release it now, I won't get the credit, I won't get the money. But if I wait a little bit, I could benefit myself as well. Eventually, I'll benefit humanity. So the question becomes: do we do good for ourselves, or do we do good for other people? Here's that bum. If you're not on video, Ira's the bum, by the way. No, so that's the question. Do we do good for ourselves? Do we do good for other people?
The only reason they would have to withhold a discovery would be to be sure it works the way they expect it to.
Well, if it doesn't work, that's part of the discovery process.
That's true too.
I thought you're getting political, rushing through the vaccine. I thought that's where you're going. No. So you're saying as soon as you have it, you have to release it to the public. So why do we do good things? Do we do it for ourselves? Do we do it for other people? Or do we do it for?
You do it for other people, and eventually you'll benefit from it.
Right. I guess it's a little bit of a mixture. So today, because in this week's parsha, we learn about what you're allowed to eat, what you're not allowed to eat regarding animals. Right? Fruits you're allowed to eat, pretzels you can eat. Now we're talking about the fish, the fowl, the animals, and also we learn about bugs and what you're allowed to eat. So honey is unique because it comes from a not kosher animal.
A what?
Honey.
Honey.
Comes from a not kosher entity. We can eat the byproduct, but you can't eat the animal. Usually they go hand in hand. Like you can't drink milk from a pig or a horse. In fact, I was talking to Michael J. The whole concept of chalav akum and chalav Yisrael. What's chalav Yisrael? That a Jew has to supervise it to make sure the Gentile doesn't put in any other additives into the milk. So if the pig's not kosher, you can't drink the milk. Here, the bee's not kosher for consumption, but you can have the honey. So we're gonna learn from honey. Now, before we do that, before we get into the idea, there's a preface to the preface, introduction to the introduction. In the laws of purity and impurity, tuma and tara. So a person could become tummy, a item could become tummy, and food could become tummy. When does food become tummy?
When it's mixed with something.
No, not so. One sec. So the way it works is, let's stick with easy stuff. Let's stick with food that grows off the trees, off the ground. Okay. When it becomes wet, when a food becomes wet, then it's called muchshor latuma, similar to the word kosher. Now, what does the word kosher mean?
Fit for use.
Fit. So the word kosher means fit. So muchshor latuma means it's fit to become tummy. When does a food that grows on the ground or off a tree fit to become tummy? After it becomes wet. But then everything is automatically fit. So no, as long as it's connected to its source in the ground, it is not fit. Only after it's detached, then later it becomes wet. Now if it's touched by a person or an object that is impure, now the food is impure. This is why we wash our hands before making hamotzi, just in case our hands are impure. You're not allowed to eat anything impure. And this is what text number 1a is based on. It says this is from the Parsha. It says all foods that commonly eat become contaminated after liquids or it came upon it. Now, it says now what are the liquids? So it's not just water. There are seven liquids in the Torah mentioned, and if these 7 liquids touch the food, now the food is fit to become tamei. Like the Rambam says, the last paragraph, 7 liquids render edible foods kosher for impurity, fit for impurity. Those are water, dew, oil, wine, animal fat, blood, and honey. Okay. All right. And so far we're good.
We're excellent.
Okay, just making sure that. Now, by the way, there's a whole argument in the Gemara. Let's say, for example, I don't like you. Not let's say.
Oh, we don't really like you either.
Okay. So what do I do? If your food is susceptible to become tamei, it makes life very miserable because you have to be extra careful. So I'll go to your bushel, your bucket of apple, your basket of apples, and I'll sprinkle some water on it. Can I make your fruit fit for impurity? So let's say you pick your apples and you make sure you're pure, and you put it inside your house because you don't want those apples to get wet. Because if they're wet and then they're touched by someone impure, now you got a problem. So let's say we got into a fight, and
So, clarifying question. Somebody touching the apple isn't the issue. Somebody touching the apple if it's wet is
No,
the issue?
after it gets wet.
After it gets
So you
wet.
came a little late. So
I heard it, I just didn't understand it.
So once the apple's picked from the tree, it's detached from its source,
Right.
then it becomes wet. So now, even though it's dry, if it's touched at any point after this by a person who's impure or an object impure, the food becomes impure.
Okay.
That becoming wet, it makes it susceptible. Fit's not go susceptible. Before, if it's picked from the tree by someone who's pure, it's not susceptible to become tamei. All right. It's a whole discussion of the Gemara. All right. So now let's get into honey. When does honey become honey? Or when does honey become the liquid? So we'll learn a little bit. We'll read over here a little about honey. And I go to the store and I buy honeys in the.
It's in a bottle.
It's in a bottle. It's in a cute beer bottle.
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh. Yeah.
And you can make beer out of honey.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Remember that.
So the question is, when does honey become susceptible to impurity? So here we go. So text number 2. This Masechta, this tractate, if you look in the top left, it's called Uktzin. Uktzin is the very last chapter in all the Mishnah, in all the Talmud. Uktzin. It's a very hardly studied chapter because usually everyone gets excited in the beginning. To make it all the way to the end you need real determination. It's also not the easiest tractate. At the end over there, there's an argument, of course, between the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel. When does honeycomb become susceptible to impurity? So the school of Shammai says when you smoke out the bees, because that's what you got to do. You got to smoke out the bees. And the school of Hillel says, because what you do is first you smoke out the bees, and then they take out the honeycomb and they cut it up and they scrape away the honey. So he says no, it's a later stage. So if somebody were to touch the honeycomb after you smoked out the bees, before you took out the honeycomb, is it pure? Is it impure?
All depends on who touched it.
No, well, someone impure touched it. No.
Oh, somebody.
So according to Shammai, it's impure. According to Hillel, not yet. Okay. Okay. This is the final Mishnah in the whole Talmud. So you might say, okay, big deal. Anyone over here kind of person who turns a novel to the last page?
Nope.
No.
Always read the last chapter first. That's the only way to read a book.
Only way to read a book.
I never heard that.
Sorry.
See, you learn something new every day.
I actually read a book once that started, it says, I'm starting with the end first, and I told her she should read the book and
There you go.
start with the
Well,
beginning.
that's
What-
an author's,
If you think that's a
tool.
sitter, you gotta start reading less.
What if you turn the book upside down? So but being that this is one of the most important books in the entire Torah, you have the written law, yeah, right, which is Torah. Then you have the oral law. The Mishnah is the foundation of the oral law. So the beginning is very important, and the end is very, very important. So I mean, this is a. So I mean, yeah, it's a nice law and everything else, but the question is, why does the Mishnah decide to end off this not only the tractate but the entire book of Mishnah with learning about a beehive and learning about a beehive, learning about honey? I mean, it's a nice law, but you want to end up with a bank. It seems kind of
So I'm getting the feeling that there's a bang here and we're just not seeing it.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, that's obviously there is.
Big Bang Theory.
Exactly, the Big Bang Theory. I've told you, we believe in the Big Bang. I told you, we Jews, we believe in the Big Bang. God said, let there be bang. There was.
Bam.
All right. The question, we all know you're supposed to do good things, right? So the question is, what motivates us to do good? For ourselves? Is it for society, or because it's the right thing? Meaning, do we do good because it's right? Do we do good because it feels good to do what's right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
It depends.
It depends. No, it doesn't.
Well, actually,
Well, most of us don't think
Hashem
about it.
commanded it.
No, the one answer in Hebrew you can give for almost any question is that the Louis?
Yeah, but the question is, well, I mean, the truth is, most of us don't think about it, right? A guy asks for money by the corner of the 95 at the exit. He asks for money. Like, do you give him money? Start thinking, should I give him money because kindness is good? Do I give him money because kindness makes me feel good? Do I give him money because I'll feel bad if I refuse?
What if
Yes.
he's gonna buy drugs with it?
Then he's gonna feel good. Someone's gonna feel good.
By the way,
Depends on the vote in November.
Yeah.
there's a new job classification. No longer are there any more drug sales people. People that sell drugs. They're recreational pharmaceutical distributors.
There you go. Recreational. There you go. So now, we can ask the same thing when it comes to a mitzvah. God commanded us to do it. Do we do the mitzvah? We feel good because we're doing the mitzvah, or are we doing the mitzvah because God commanded it?
Yes.
Well,
Well, yeah. So there are very strong arguments and texts and different things for both sides of that argument. Number one. First of all, so we learn it's for you. You see this is text number 3. Moshe says to guard, observe the commandments and all the edicts that I command you. Why? For you. So you guys have them for me? No, for you. And the Ramban, who, if you haven't learned the Ramban's commentary on the Torah, it's phenomenal. The Art Scrolls translated it into English. It's very, very good. Nachmanides' commentary on the Torah is one of the greatest out there. Really. It's not like Rashi does explanation. He expands upon it. He gives explanations. He brings in Midrash and Kabbalah. Very, very, very interesting. And Art Scroll does a very good job, bringing it kind of down to earth. So it's a blue book. It's a chumash. But if you want, if the rabbi's sermon is boring or,
We hang on your every word.
right.
How else can we heckle you along the way?
There you go. So I make mistakes for guys like you.
You never
So,
make mistakes.
yeah.
You can check to see if we're awake.
Exactly. So the Ramban says, you think God needs you? God doesn't need you. God is telling you what to do for you, not for Him. You see, God has something for His benefit, for your benefit. Because sometimes we might say, why does God really care if you put this amount of salt, if we wait 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, if you eat this animal, that animal, you think God's getting into all the minutia. The answer is, Nachmanides says, it's not for God. It's for you. There's actually a story. The Rebbe used this answer. A guy, I think it was a college student, asked the Rebbe, says, such a great God cares about, all these small details. If the stove is 210, if the water is 212, or 190 yad seletas, but right? I mean, all these little, you get into halacha, all these little tiny details. Do you think God really cares? I mean, why does such a great God care about such a small detail? The Rebbe said, it's not for God. It's for you. You're right. These details don't matter to God. It matters to you. I mean, God's telling you, in order for you to live the best life, this guy, for him, it was revolutionary because this whole time he thought he was doing God a favor. Thinking, how can insignificant me, why does God care about it, So,
Isn't that why we put the silly boxes on our head?
yeah, but we're going to learn about it. Silly boxes are very expensive to be silly boxes, right?
I know. But it's what you call them, it's how you refer to them.
Exactly. So the mitzvah is so great, and we can't possibly appreciate the mitzvah in this world. So that's why it says Hashem commanded you. This is a reference that the Medrash and Kabbalah talk about. That you get some reward in this world, and most of the reward you get in the world to come. He says that God commanded us all to observe. He says, "L'toiv lanu," for our good. If kol hayamim, says all your days for perpetual good, to live on this day. So going Rabbeinu Bechaya also has a commentary on the Torah. He says there's two different goods referred to in this verse. One is in this world, and that's the promise in the Holy Land and benefits of all the life that comes with it, of living a Torah observant life. And then there's this spiritual world, which is for our perpetual good. That's number one. Number one, it's for us. Now, what's the purpose of a mitzvah? In Nachmanides talks about on this week's Parshat, by the way, because a lot of people knock this week's Parshat. A lot of the Gentiles and non-believers knock this week's Parshat. The only reason why God gave us these commandments was only because they didn't have refrigerating or the world was barbarians. They say really this whole Parsha of slaughter and kosher animals doesn't apply. So you see the Medrash asks, so when you slaughter, it has to be done in a certain section of the neck. It has to be done between point A and point B. And if it's too high, it's not kosher. If it's too low, it's not kosher. So the Medrash asks, you think God really cares 1 inch up, 1 inch down? I mean, you think God's looking, I see that. No, that's it. Now you ruined my day. That's how the Medrash asked the question. Look at text 6a. You think God cares if we slaughter the neck or the nape? I mean, why is God giving these commandments? For us. Many times people think that if they do something, don't do something, they're causing God's pain. God's they're saying over here is doing for us. It helps us to refine our character. How do we refine our character? So Nachmanides says, it's not on this week's Parsha. It's on Parshat Zerei. Parshat Zerei is the second time where the laws of kosher are stated. He says that each commandment has a reason and a purpose. It rectifies and helps us become a better human being. The commandments are not intended to benefit God, rather to benefit us. They shield us from toxicity, caustic beliefs, and shameful traits. They help us to remember God's wondrous miracles and know God. So, for example, like silver, we want to you got to get out the schmutz. So God's commandments uproot the schmutz, teaches us the truth, and empowers us to remember it always. So, for example, the shechita, the mitzvah of shechita, slaughtering from the neck doesn't produce greater glory for God. Rather, it helps us to habituate ourselves in the path of compassion. Another example, you think God cares about, if we eat one animal or the other animal? Let me think about it. Cows are outside all the time. So if a cow's dirty, can you slaughter and eat it? Yeah. If you raise a pig in your house, can you slaughter and eat it? No. So what is it about? Rather, it's the cows are purity and pigs are impure. Same thing is everything else. So he's shaking the lulav, putting on tefillin, which is all about remembering the good that God gave for us. And the Chacham Tzvi, who was a 17th century rabbi. Oh, sorry, I kind of ran through the text over here. Sorry. And he says, and he goes on further on this point, and about mitzvahs helping to help a person become a better human being. And he says, text 6c, he says in his response, he says, also when a Jewish army lays siege to a non-Jewish city, we are commanded to leave one side of the city exposed for any citizen that wishes to escape. It's interesting. This text talks about a Jewish army acting humane and all over the news. Oh, IDF, barbarians, and everything else, right? We're even commanded to avoid causing pain to animals. Similarly, to send the mother bird away. All of this for us, the servants, implant true beliefs and good and proper traits in our soul to refine us for our benefits. And Eibishter says, "Look at you. You guys are a bunch of brutes. The Utes are brutes.
Utes, yeah.
Yeah. Utes are brutes. So what do? He gave us commandments to make us a little bit more of a mensch. So basically, what comes back down to it is, why do you do something good for yourself? So you should be a better person, right? That God doesn't really care about what you do. God doesn't benefit. Really, he has to decide one thing or the other. So he decided, cow, yeah, pig, no, but it really doesn't really make a difference. That's so far what we've reached. You think that's 100% true?
Yes,
No, can't be. Too easy.
too easy.
No,
How could that be?
nah. Let's get back to the bees in the beehive. Let's back to the birds and the bees.
Oh, the birds and the bees.
The birds and the bees.
I thought everything was just black and white and cut and,
And gray all over.
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
What's black and white and red all over?
The newspaper.
No, with a parrot zebra.
We used to
Skunk with a sunburn.
we used to say a bacher on his first date.
I like that one the best.
Okay.
That's good.
So now we're going to approach it from the other side. That a person is not here to necessarily to better himself. He's here to serve a greater purpose. Let's look at the life of bees. You guys ever watch that bee movie?
Yeah,
Cartoon? Yeah. So
Seinfeld.
we should just show the movie.
Yeah,
Honeybees.
actor Blazing Saddles.
Yeah. Blazing Saddles first. Honeybees are divided into three groups: Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael.
Frisco Kid.
Yeah, exactly. We could do a marathon.
Moving on.
Yeah. Bees are divided into three groups. The queen bee, the drones, and the worker bees. The queen bee's job, lay eggs. She's groomed. Drones don't do much. They just wait to mate for the king. The worker bees, they work. Their job is to keep the whole hive, the temperature, to feed the queen, to feed the drones. They live, I think, what is it, a couple of weeks, right?
Depends on the season of the year.
What was that?
It's something running around in the ceiling.
Oh my gosh! I think we got to get pest control in here.
Yep.
They're inside the roof.
Yeah.
Yep. I have a guy if you need one.
What animal?
Either it's a squirrel. I've seen them coming out.
How do they get in there?
We had, I don't know.
It means there's a hole somewhere.
You also here. We had a
Possums.
could be possible. We stored candy in the ceiling for a week for
Oh,
Purim.
that was a bad idea.
We did it. We were doing it for years already. And then we went up there and we saw some droppings, whatever. So obviously we cleaned up the candy and everything else. But I took away the candy and yeah, it looks like they're back.
We have raccoons, we have possums.
Yeah.
We obviously have rats around.
Yeah. So we got a
Squirrels.
We got to put some poison down. All right.
I got to bring my shotgun.
Thank you, Larry.
Well, that, or if the animal is in the ceiling when your pest control guy comes, he is supposed to be able to trap it and get rid of it.
Right.
Trapping being the key thing, because some things you're not allowed to kill.
Okay. I'm not going to respond because we're on video. Anyway.
Yep.
I used to work in pest control, I know.
Okay, so
She's one of the chief pests.
She knew how to control.
who's controlling who here, Larry? Anyway, so the worker bees they live for 6 to 8 weeks. They fly 1.5 times the circumference of the earth, and they make a 12th teaspoon of honey. What are they doing? They're working, and they don't stop from the moment they're created, they're hatched until the end. The honeybees are working, and it's not like the drones have it any easier. The honeybee colony, you see, is comprised of 3. The queen bee fertilizes the eggs, and the drones, if they mate with the queen, they die. If they don't mate with the queen, they're kicked out and
They die.
So their whole thing is to serve the hive. Everything they do is to serve the hive. So you see text number 8a, the Medrash says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shimon says just like a bee, everything it does is only to serve the queen bee. So too the Jewish people have the mitzvahs. Why? To serve the Eibusher. And God gets pleasure and delight when we do his when we do a mitzvahs. Yeah, obviously we benefit from doing the mitzvahs, but why are we doing it? We're doing it for Him. God commanded. We listen. And this is what the Alter Rebbe says. Text 8b. This is page 228. It says that we cannot. Where is it? We cannot be our own ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose isn't you. The ultimate purpose is something greater than you. Despite the wondrous benefits we derive from the commandments, that's not why we do it. We do it for the Eibusher. We do it for Hashem's glory, so that God can rejoice in His handiwork. When we study Torah and observe the commandments, God experiences a spiritual delight. Now, I want to just touch on something. Both of what we're saying tonight are true. God doesn't need anything. And nothing what you do can impact God. Instead, God chose. Why? It's His business. God chose to take an interest in you. Right? That's it. That's the only reason. So why is it important? Because God chose to. I mean, nothing you do, the reason why it affects Him is because he chooses to allow it to affect Him. Right?
Yep, I'm okay with that.
I mean, it doesn't truly affect. So, for example, if I push you, whether or not you choose, it impacts you. So we don't have a choice in that fashion. But God chose. Remember that story with the guy who was having trouble with sinful thoughts, and he went over to the Maggid.
And he didn't let him in.
And the guy came to his house in the middle of the night. He's knocking. And finally, in the morning, it got freezing cold. He says, the Maggid sent me here because I'm having trouble with foreign sinful thoughts. He said, I answered your question. So what do you mean you answered my question? You were knocking that night. Did I let you in? No, it's my house. I decide who I allow in. So God decides what's important to Him. Now that it's important to Him, the reason why we're doing it is for Him. So is there a benefit for you? Yeah, but it's not why you're doing it. And this is what the Rebbe says. This is why this is the final Mishnah in the entire book, because what the Mishnah is telling us a book of laws, right? It's telling us what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. What's the most powerful lesson the Mishnah can give us? The lesson is. You serve God, and be proud that you have a chance to do it. Are you going to get something on the side? Yeah, but that's not important right now. What's important is You're here to serve a greater purpose. And this is what the Rebbe says in text number 9. This is also why the final mission discusses beehives and combs. It is imperative to serve God for the sake of God. It's to be taught to us by the comparison of the Jewish people to bees. We gotta be like like bees. So there's 3 levels here, and we're gonna talk about this in Tanya at one point. There's 3 ways to do a mitzvah. Number 1, because it makes me a better person. And number 2, it makes me feel good that I'm doing God a favor, right? God gets pleasure, I don't necessarily get pleasure, but I get pleasure at the fact that God gets pleasure. Number 3 is nothing to do with me. He asked me to do something. I'm doing it. I remember I mentioned this debate guy, this Rabbi Shachat was giving a talk on the difference between Judaism and Christianity. So a guy gets up after the talk and says, but if you guys don't believe like us, I forgot how you framed the question. Says, what about getting into heaven? So Rabbi Shachat answers this Christian, who cares about getting into heaven? The Christian was, what do you mean? He said, I don't serve God to get into heaven. I serve God. He asked me to serve him. I serve him. He created me. He gave me purpose. I serve him. Now, is there heaven? Yeah. Will we get there? Yeah. But that's not why. That's not why I'm doing it.
That's a great response. It really is a great response.
Yeah. So all these things. So you ask a person. Let's take a crazy idea. You ask a person. Says, why don't you kill? Why don't you murder somebody? So if he's crazy, he says, because I don't want to get caught by the police. If he's less crazy, he said, well, because society, it's not healthy for society. Still crazy. If he's normal, he said, because it's wrong. Why is it wrong? There's no why. There's no side benefit. It's wrong. I don't have to tell. So doing a mitzvah, you have all the side benefits. But why do you do it? Because it's the right thing to do. Just like you don't kill people, right? We're good?
Non-committal.
You got it.
Right. You know those stories where, she was always so nice,
Yeah.
I lived there 30 years, I never would have guessed.
It was such a quiet neighborhood.
Exactly.
They never said anything.
And this is what the Rambam says. Comparing to bees, just as bees completely devote themselves to the queen, so too you have to do mitzvahs to benefit Hashem, despite human nature, which is self-focused, and despite our incalculable benefits. That's what he says. Someone who serves Hashem out of love occupies himself in Torah mitzvahs and walks in the path. So if you love somebody, you want to do what they find pleasurable, right? Because you love them, and not for ulterior motives, not because of the evil that will occur, fear of evil, nor in order to acquire benefit. You don't learn Torah because you're going to be a scholar. You don't stay away from Averis because you're afraid you're going to go to hell. You do the mitzvah because this is what God asked me to do. If you remember the story with the 2 brothers in the jail cell, I told that story 100,000 times.
21. Different story.
Exactly. Now this story. 2 brothers who were arrested, and they were in the jail cell. And in the jail cell there was a chamber pot, and one brother was very upset. He couldn't daven mincha. Why? Because according to Allah, you're not allowed to daven mincha. You can't daven in a place that's smelly and dirty. And it smelled quite bad. So one brother said, "Why are you upset? The same God who told you to daven mincha is telling you not to daven mincha. So you're serving God by not serving God. You're serving God by not davening mincha." And the brother realized,
Well,
you're right.
yeah.
It's not about what I have, because he got such a spiritual ecstasy from praying. It's not about what makes me feel good. It's about what does God need me to be right now. And right now, it's not to daven mincha. So he realized he started serving God by not serving God.
They did something to get in the jail cell to begin with.
Huh?
Did something that.
Well, yeah, they were teaching Torah. Yeah. They weren't there for no reason. Like when I was a kid, I got in trouble. My father said, "What happened?" "Nothing. I wasn't doing anything." Right?
I was just there.
Yeah, exactly.
The police came up.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Exactly. Like the Rebbe concludes, This lesson. So it says obviously there's a benefit, and there's world to come, and there's Olam Haba, and there's Mashiach times, and all that. But when a Jew serves God of love in such a way that they do what's true because it's true, what's right because it's right, there's no ulterior motive to the service. Their only thought, animating the service is their desire to fulfill God's commandment. So you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like you don't feel like going to shul. I'm tired. Not today. Who asked you if you're tired of that? No one asked you. I don't feel like it. No one asked you if you feel like it. That's not, no one asked your opinion.
That's Thursday.
I was thinking it was Shabbos, but okay.
Our ultimate goal is to reach a point that we do the mitzvah. Why? Because, some mitzvahs are harder.
Because we're thankful we got up in the morning.
Yeah. Some mitzvahs are harder to do, some mitzvahs are easier to do, but your job is to do the mitzvah. All right. So we end off. I think this is the last text. Yeah. So the lesson told us, is it okay to feel good from doing a mitzvah? Yeah. And also, do we know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, that there's a reward and good for doing a mitzvah and bad for doing it? Yeah. Is that why you do the mitzvah? No. It's going back to the question in the beginning. A scientist makes a discovery. Okay, does he have to? Can he hold on to it, or does he have to? Put it out in the public, even if it means risking his own personal gain? What do you think the answer is?
He needs to put it out in the public.
Right, because you're not here to serve yourself. You're here to serve something greater than yourself. To do what's right. Why? Because it's right. Not for any other reasons. Key points. Hashem derives pleasure every time we do a mitzvah. He did not give us the mitzvah for his pleasure. He gave us for our benefit. We derive many benefits from doing mitzvahs, tangible benefits, moral benefits, and spiritual benefits. And as Hashem set aside his benefits and gave us mitzvahs for the sake of the benefits, so do we. We serve God for his sake, to give him the immeasurable pleasure. Why does God get so much pleasure? Because we could be doing anything else at this time. Instead, what are we doing? We're doing what he asks. And we could, be eating chocolate cake and watching the Rangers or the Panthers.
No, the Red Sox.
The Red Sox. Why would you want to do that? That doesn't measure.
The Marlins.
The Marlins, yeah. No, they need your prayers.
They need the prayers.
Yeah.
They dropped 4 in a row.
Have they won a game yet?
I don't
5 in a
think
row.
so.
Oh wow. Okay. So it's a good thing.
Not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game.
Yeah.
No, it's whether you win or lose.
Yeah. You know who says that, Larry? The people who lose. Yeah. A deeper level is to do simply what's right because it's right. Again, but that's a very, very high level. We do receive the benefits, but that's not the motivation. We do it because Hashem asked us, not for what we can get out of it. Any questions? We're all good. All right, guys. Next week, I believe next week is the Pesach class. Yeah, next week is the Pesach class. And then we're going to have Passover vacation. Everyone have a very good week.